والصلاة والسلام على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تمسك بهديه أما بعد. Last night's class was from chapter 18, and we took three narrations of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu regarding saying Sami Allahu liman hamida Rabbana wa lakal hamd Rabbana lakal hamd, and also the Imam reciting غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين, and the Imam and the people behind him saying Ameen, and the virtues, excellences, the rulings and etiquettes regarding those issues. We took that in last night's class. Class tonight is from chapter 19 for those who are following the book. And as we said before, the idea of for the people to follow the book. That's the idea. That's the whole reason why we're teaching a book. And that's the whole reason why we say the hadith number, and not for it just to be an open lecture, nor just be an open class, but for the listener, the watcher, and the viewer, the disciple and the discipler to actually go home, be at home, and have something tangible. This is my copy of wal-Marjan, a book, alhamdulillah, it's been in English for many years. It gained a lot of popularity in the mid-90s and lost a lot of popularity in the late 90s, early 2000s, and went away. And other books became much more popular for one reason or another. But there's nothing better than this for me as a layman Muslim. 2-volume book of Hadiths from Bukhari and Muslim. So now I have the book, it's in English, it's translated, the Arabic's there, and now I actually have the classical and also modern references, the explanation of all of these Hadiths from Bukhari and Muslim. I write down the notes, I take the notes, the fa'idah, the fawaid, the rulings, halal, haram, and I learn. And now I actually have a playbook of authentic sunnah. Everybody understand this? So I can read the book myself, review it myself, a Sunday school, summer camp. Everybody understand this? My family, my wife, my children, so on and so forth. You have the sharh, the fiqh with the authentic hadiths down packed. And you can follow the classes and stay up. And I don't think, and Allah knows best, there's anybody in English that's doing anything like this, close to this. I don't think so. I mean, maybe I'm mistaken. You find a few books here and there, a few classes, a few lectures here and there, but nothing serious and consistent. And the average thing that you'll find on YouTube when you look for explanation of hadith, the average thing that you'll find is 40 hadith nawawi. Not saying that's a bad thing, but it's much greater than that, bigger than that, and deeper than that. Most classes, go on YouTube right now, hadith explanation. The first thing you're going to find, 40 hadith. Everybody teaches 40 hadith. Okay, you go to hadith science, Baquniya, Nukhbat al-Fikr, and that's it, stops, it's done. And that explanation is not in depth, it's not in detail, it's not tangible, it's not practical. So the whole purpose of it is for the explanation of these hadiths to be what? Practical. And for you to have them locked down. Inshallah, if Allah wills, we finish the entire book, the second volume, and you have a treasure of hadiths with the proper understanding, the fiqh, what the salaf said, what the ulama say, so on and so forth. Everybody understand this? That's the whole purpose. So how many of you have the book with you here tonight? Besides Salih. Where's your book, Riyadh? Sama, Saladdin, Khalid, Abu Idris, Riyadh. Where's your book at? Why not? Go right to Dar es Salaam, go on Amazon, order it, get the book. Al-Lu'lu' wal-Marjan, fi mattafaqa alayhi shaykhan. And then people say, we're calling to people to the sunnah, to the way of the salaf. This is a pretty what? Good starting place. A hadith from what? Bukhari and Muslim on aspects of iman, tawheed, all the way to the end of the chapters of fiqh. Everybody understand this? Khairan, inshallah. So with that being said, for those who are following at home or in your car or at work, wherever you're watching HD, and Allah Azza wa Jalla's spacious earth, chapter 19. The author says, Babu Timam al-Ma'mumi bil-Imam. The followers offering salat prayer behind Imam should follow him. The followers, then we have a bracket, then we have parentheses, as we said countless times before. Muhsin Khan, may Allah reward him well. His translation is often very difficult to follow behind because of the consistent and constant brackets and parentheses and retransliterations after Roman transliterations, then the translation, then the Roman transliteration. Just look here. It says the followers should follow him. That's without the brackets and the parentheses. In the brackets and parentheses, offering salat prayer. Once more, it's hadith number 232. Is there a purpose of translating the word salat at this point in the book? I don't think there's any reader that doesn't know what the word what? Salat means. Secondly, it says offering salat behind imam. What does the imam mean? Why is that not translated? Everybody understand this? Choppy and inconsistent. So it says here, Babu Itimam al-Ma'mumi bil-Imam. The chapter that the Ma'mum, singular, not plural, even though it applies plurally as well, but it's talking about singular, is that the one who's behind the Imam should follow the Imam. I.e., the chapter heading means, and we've given a great amount of effort in presenting to you the true style of the ulama of Islam and focusing on the bab, the style of the muhaddithin, commonly known or commonly referenced to Imam al-Bukhari's book. The most important thing from the get-go is having the fiqh of the chapter heading and knowing how to break it down. What's meant by this? That the one behind the Imam should follow the Imam. That's known, i.e. in all of his outward actions. In all of his outward actions. That's what's meant by that bab. في أعماله الظاهرة في أحواله الظاهرة, in the apparent manifest actions, i.e. breaking it down further, in a case of necessity or injury, or in a case of something happening in the middle of the salah, such as the Imam all of a sudden has to sit down, or the Imam himself is sitting down and you're praying behind him. Everybody understand this? And that you don't necessarily have to follow the Imam with the inward actions, the inward things, which we'll get into. The niyyah, Khalid. He's making dhuhr, you're making asr. He's making isha, you're making maghrib. The second raka'ah for the Imam tashahhud is only your first raka'ah. You're late, etc. Everybody understand this? So the chapter of the obligation of following the Imam in the outward actions, as long as it isn't something that clearly goes against your specific prayer, i.e. the obligation of following the Imam in a situation which is irregular, unnormal, or abnormal. Everybody understand this? Tayyib? Such as what? Sitting down. Such as what? Sitting down. When the Imam has to sit down. In the middle of salah, his knee goes up. His ankle goes up. Subhanallah. In the salah. Everybody understand this? Now, what do you do now? Do you continue to stand up? Or do you sit down with the Imam? Everybody understand this? Or the second scenario is Salih, the Imam himself is very old. Or the Imam sits down, he's injured. And he sits down from the beginning of Salah. Do you pray behind him? And do you pray behind him, sitting down, standing up, etc.? Everybody understand this? And this goes to show us the comprehensive nature of the Sharia. That the Sharia is totally thorough and comprehensive. There isn't anything that can happen except that there is a ruling already known. Because people get injured. People grow old. People become sick. Things happen in the Salah. Everybody understand this? Everyone doesn't stand up and walk strongly like the young brothers and sisters can do. Everybody understand this? There's some imams that are what, Khalid? Old men. Everybody doing this or not? So that's what's meant by the chapter heading. Got that, inshallah? Moving forward. Fadl Salih, you can read the hadith for us. Bismillah.
حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إذا قال
لا we read that. قرأنا هذا بالأمس. Chapter 19.
باب ائتمام المأموم بالإمام. حديث أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال سقط رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم
عن فرس بالفتح ليس بالكسر. عن فرس
فجحش شقه الأيمن فدخلنا عليه نعود فحضرت الصلاة فصلى بنا قاعدا فقعدنا فلما قضى الصلاة قال إنما جعل الإمام ليؤتم به فإذا كبر فكبروا وإذا ركع فاركعوا وإذا رفع فارفعوا وإذا قال سمع الله لمن حمده فقولوا ربنا ولك الحمد وإذا سجد فاسجدوا. حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها أم المؤمنين أنها قالت صلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في بيته وهو شاك فصلى جالسا وصلى وراءه قوم قياما فأشار إليهم أن اجلسوا فلما انصرف قال إنما جعل الإمام ليؤتم به فإذا رفع فاركعوا وإذا رفع فارفعوا وإذا صلى جالسا فصلوا جلوسا. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما جعل الإمام ليؤتم به فإذا كبر فكبروا وإذا ركع فاركعوا وإذا قال سمع الله لمن حمده فقولوا ربنا ولك الحمد وإذا سجد فاسجدوا وإذا صلى جالسا فصلوا جلوسا أجمعون.
Jazakallah khairan. Hadith 232 says, Hadith Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu قال سقط رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن فرس فجحش شقه الأيمن فدخلنا عليه نعوده فحضرت الصلاة فصلى بنا قاعدا فقعدنا ثم قضى الصلاة قال إنما جعل الإمام ليؤتم به فإذا كبر فكبروا وإذا ركع فاركعوا وإذا رفع فارفعوا وإذا قال سمع الله لمن حمده فقولوا ربنا ولك الحمد وإذا سجد فاسجدوا. حديث عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها أم المؤمنين أنها قالت صلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في بيته وهو شاك فصلى جالسا وصلى وراءه قوم قياما فأشار إليهم أن اجلسوا فلما انصرف قال إنما جعل الإمام ليؤتم به فإذا ركع فاركعوا وإذا رفع فارفعوا وإذا صلى جالسا فصلوا جلوسا. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما جعل الإمام ليؤتم به فإذا كبر فكبروا وإذا ركع فاركعوا وإذا قال سمع الله لمن حمده فقولوا ربنا ولك الحمد وإذا سجد فاسجدوا وإذا صلى جالسا فصلوا جلوسا أجمعون. In your home, wherever you are, you should have your copy, reading and following. Reading, following. You have a mistake in your book, fix it with your pencil, your mechanical pencil, your pen. Everybody understand this? Practice the reading, follow behind as if you're sitting in a what? Actual class. As if you're sitting in an actual class. If you don't have the English Arabic version, get the Arabic version. On your tablet, on your phone, your iPad Pro, the PDF, and read and follow along. There's no excuse why you shouldn't be memorizing these hadiths, practicing them, reading them, and inshallah perfecting the skill of reading proficiently and perfectly of the Arabic language. No excuse why you shouldn't be able to read these hadiths without mistake. Everybody clear on this? Khairan, inshallah. Hadith 232, narrated Anas bin Malik radiyallahu anhu, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam fell from a horse and the right side of his body was injured. We went to inquire about his health. Meanwhile, it was the time for Salah, prayer. And he led al-Salah, the prayer. See my point? How it's like a speed bump in the middle of the highway. It just slows you down totally unnecessarily. Back-to-back translations of something which is pretty what? Salah. Everybody clear that on this or not? It says here, it was the time for Salah, prayer. Then he led al-Salat. What's the difference between Salat and al-Salat? Why is one have alif and lam and one doesn't? It's just no consistency. It says here he led al-Salat, the prayer sitting, and we also offered Salat. And where's the translation of prayer at? Huh, Salih? While sitting. On the completion of the Salat, no translation, he said the Imam is to be followed. Say takbir when he says it. Bow when he bows. Rise when he rises. And when he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. And prostrate if he prostrates. Prostrate if he prostrates. Is that a correct translation? To say to prostrate if he prostrates. Is he going to make salat without making prostration? Everybody understand this? Let alone the fact that he translated, he says takbir when he bows and when he rises. He translated as when and not if. Everybody understand this? And the word is all the same in Arabic. Wa-idha, wa-idha, fa-idha, wa-idha. Everybody understand this? So in the salah, the imam for sure is going to say what? Allahu Akbar. He's going to make ruku'. He's going to rise out of ruku'. Naam? There is no if. He's going to what? So that's not just that strong as well. And obviously there's a difference in Arabic in translating English between if and in. In and if. Or in and either. All right, but sometimes they're interchangeable and sometimes one means if and one means what? When. Huge difference. Hadith 233. Narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, the mother of the believers. Allah's Messenger sallallahu during his illness offered salah, prayer, at his house while sitting. Whereas some people offered salah behind him standing. The Prophet sallallahu beckoned them to sit down. On completion of the salat, he said the imam is to be followed. Bow when he bows. Raise up your heads. Stand erect when he raises his head. And when he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, Allah heard those who sent praises and thanks to him. Say then, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, O our Lord, all praises and thanks are for you. And if you praise sitting, then praise sitting. Hadith 234 is narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. The Prophet said, the imam is to be followed. Say the takbir when he says it. Bow if he bows. If he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Prostrate if he prostrates. And praise sitting altogether if he prays sitting. So, 232, 233, 234 all prove one thing, and they'll have one main and consistent theme. And that is the absolute obligation of the person behind the imam to follow the imam's movements. To follow what? The imam's movements. Whether it's a standing position, bowing, sitting, naam, or something that was verbal. If he says, Sami Allahu liman hamida, then what? وهكذا. Verbally and physically is to do what? Follow the imam. Is to do what? Follow the imam. So all three hadiths are in clear cohesion with the chapter heading. The mandatory obligation, the compulsory duty of following the imam, and that which he does outwardly of statement and of what? Of action. Khairan inshaAllah. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding these hadiths, he says in the Sharh of Sahih Muslim, first and foremost is when we say Rabbana wa lakal hamd. Naam. And we said this principle say Rabbana lakal hamd without a wow or with a wow. Before that, very interesting issue is the hadith of Anas. He says Saqata Rasulullah an farasin fajuhisha shiqhu al-ayman, that he fell off of a horse and his right side was wounded, was bruised, was injured. Before we get into the fiqh, and what Nawawi says, this clearly proves that the Prophet was a human being. And the Prophet was given what he was given of miraculous things. First and foremost, iman, nubuwah, risala, the certain khasa'is. What the ulama of Islam mentioned about the specific traits that the Prophet had that no other person had. But at the end of the day, he still was a human being. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشْرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ إيش؟ واحد. I'm only a human being like you, but I get revelation. So the Prophet ﷺ, to fall off of a horse proves what? He's a human being. And for his side to be wounded proved that he was a what? Human being. So as we said many times before, the barakah of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is that it's always a revolving benefit. Always. Starts and it goes back. It doesn't stop. We study fiqh, we learn tawheed. We take hadith, we learn adab, we learn everything all in one. So this hadith proves the validity of our aqeedah, is that the Prophet ﷺ was a human being, and he was not made from another type of matter, and he was outside of the realm of humanity, and he had a supernatural ability to protect himself and so on and so forth. That's false, that's incorrect. And we benefit from this studying and learning what? Kitab al-Tawheed, Aqidah Wasatiyah? No. We learn this studying what? wal-Marjan. Everybody understand this? And this is what we call al-istinbat wal-istikhraj. is to deduce and to what? Extract from the hadith. And all this, first and foremost, is based off of what? The legacy of observation. And you have to be trained. The naked eye has to be trained to extract this fa'idah. So this is a major fa'idah in Aqidah and Tawheed. Our Tawheed and Aqidah is not based off of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab or Ibn Taymiyyah. Abadan. It's based off of Kitab and Sunnah. So the Prophet was wounded. So what sense does it make for you to call upon him and invoke him and make dua to him? And he himself could not protect himself, what? From getting injured and falling off of that what? That horse. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Everybody understand this or not? Huh? And the Prophet ﷺ, he says, وَلَوْ كُنْتُ عَالَمُ الْغَيْبِ, he says, and if I knew the unseen, لَاسْتَكْثَرْتُ مِنَ الْخَيْرِ وَمَا مَسَّنِيَ السُّوءُ. He says, if I knew the unseen, he says, I would have abundant good and no harm would have ever touched me. Now, what's clearer than the Quran al-Kareem? I'm a human being. I don't have the ability. La amliku lakum. Is the Quran says, I don't possess any good, any harm for you. I'm nothing but a man like you are. So how can a person say, La ilaha Muhammad Rasulullah, and say Muhammad has the ability to forgive sin? Muhammad has the ability to cure the ill. Muhammad has the ability to allow a woman to conceive a child. Muhammad has the ability to protect from this and that. And this is not an exaggeration. You can go from the east to the west, the north to the south, and you'll find people who say this with their tongues and with their actions. Whether it's the continent of Africa, whether it's Indochina, Far East, this, but wherever you go. And that's horrible. And you have people who are scholar, who memorize books upon books upon books. Forget memorizing the Quran, memorize books. Mawla. And this is his aqidah, that the Prophet could do these things and he had these special things. And if you don't believe this and you don't accept this, then you're a Wahhabi. You're a Wahhabi. You're a follower of Ibn Abdul Wahhab. You're a Najdi. You hate the Prophet. You hate the awliya. Well, what about this hadith? The Prophet fell off of a horse. That's embarrassing. That's humiliating. But that's a mistake of a what? A human being. And then not only did he fall off, he rode. He was what? Juhisha. He was injured. So much so the Sahaba had to what? Visit him, inquire about his health. So, where are you going? With the clarity of this hadith and the other hadith, let alone the Quran, that the Prophet was a what? A human being. And is unbefitting, no matter how much you love the Prophet to raise him to the status of Allah Azza wa Jal. You love the Prophet for Allah, and you love Allah for Allah. Everybody understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? And we go on and on and on and on about the aqidah of Tawheed that has become so strange to so many people today, unfortunately. And there's so many people that have been lied to and deceived and duped and tricked to thinking that Tawheed and the aqidah of Tawheed is something that was just made up by this Najdi scholar, Ibn Abdul Wahhab, this chieftain cleric, Wahhabism. Everybody understand this? That's unfortunate. It's what? It's unfortunate. Our aqidah is directly extracted what? Organically. The potato, the dirt, you wash it off, you rinse it off, chop, 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 put it in the pan. No preservatives, no dye, no sugar, no this, no that. Organically extracted. Everybody clear on this or not? And this is the barakah of studying what? The hadith. And the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ directly. This Shaykh Sharah, this book, Kitab Fulan, that's all good. But it's not the same as you having your own garden in the backyard. You grow it, you pick it, you what? Cook it, and you what? You eat it. Everybody understand this or not? Squash. Tayyib. Khairan, inshallah. Moving forward. So the Prophet ﷺ, he fell off the horse and he was wounded. Allah Azza wa Jal had an infinite wisdom in this, to teach the Sahaba this, and to teach us as well. For our hearts never ever to be attached to the Prophet ﷺ in a manner in which they are to be attached to Allah. Everybody clear on this or not? Moving forward. It then says, فَجُحِشَ شِقُهُ الْأَيْمَنِ فَدَخَلْنَا عَلَيْهِ نَعُودُهُ. This part of hadith proves that it's from the sunnah to visit the ill. It's from the sunnah to do what? To visit the ill. Visit someone who is ill. فَحَضَرَتِ الصَّلَاةِ فَصَلَّ بِنَا قَائِدًا. The prayer came in, and then he led us in the prayer and he was sitting down. This part of hadith teaches us is that no matter how sick or ill you are to be conscious of the salah. And you're to know what's going on. And if you're sick or too ill or dizzy or whatever, those who are around you should be. And if not, they shouldn't be around you. Everybody understand this? I'm telling you, if I get sick, I get ill, I get old, my family, this and that. You come into the hospital room, and my mother, my children, this one or that one is crying, and you say it's time for Salah. It's time to pray. You're sick, you're ill, maybe you feel better, but it's time to what? It's time to pray. Just like that. That's the true family. Is a person is concerned about your soul, and not just crying about, oh, he's this, he's that, but actually concerned about your what? Your ruh. And not just your physical body. What's worse, you die. Your physical body goes away. And then what? The soul doesn't die. Everybody understand this? And that's the thing that's to be looked at. So as-salah. The importance of the salah. There's some Muslims, they have the greatest health, the greatest strength, the greatest youth, and they are totally heedless from the what? The salah, unfortunately. Young men, young women, salah is of no importance to them. Doesn't matter. It's sad. And many of our families are like this. They live their whole lives not praying, not wearing hijab, and then when they get old, they'll be righteous and pious. They want to pray now, to make hajj now. Alhamdulillah for that. But it's unfortunate. What barakah you think you actually want to have? And most importantly, your children. Why are the Muslims the way they are? Where's the tarbiyah? You didn't raise your children upon nothing. And now you expect them to be religious because you became religious, quote unquote. Say God struck. I became enlightened at 50. We mentioned before about the hijab. You don't wear your hijab throughout your total life of beauty. Then when your beauty fades, now it's time to do what? Put on hijab. That's a game. And this is the case of many Muslims today. I'm sure you can all make a reference to a family member and maybe your own family. Everybody understand this? And it's unfortunate. So the salah was upon the Prophet's mind and the Sahaba as well. And sickness and injury did not stop them from offering the rights of Allah Azza wa Jal. So the salah came in, فَصَلَّ بِنَا قَاعِدًا, and he led us in the prayer and he was sitting down, فَقَعَدْنَا, and then he what? He sat down. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding these narrations, فَحَضَرَتِ الصَّلَاةِ ظَاهِرُ أَنَّهُ صَلَّى صلى بِهِمْ صَلَاةً مَكْتُوبَةً وفيه جواز الإشارة والعمل القليل في الصلاة للحاجة وفيه متابعة الإمام في الأفعال والتكبير. When it says فَحَضَرَتِ الصَّلَاةِ, the salah came in, and this also proves that the salah is made when it comes in. It proves that there's waqt, there's time for salah. And you cannot pray whenever you want to pray. You understand? The observation and what? Deduction. This proves that the prayer has a what? Inna salata kanat ala mu'minin. It says what? It's a salah, it's a time, fixed time. Everybody understand this? So it says here that Nawawi states, Zahiru, he says that which is apparent from this hadith is that it was a mandatory prayer. Is that it was a what? Mandatory prayer. No, he doesn't say this decisively, but he says Zahiruhu. It's clear and obvious that this was a what? Mandatory prayer. Whereas the as-salah, alif lam is mentioned, the asl is pertaining to something that's what? The actual fard. Now, he says, so now this is going to dictate the entire mood of everything that's going to come later on. The Prophet led them sitting down in a mandatory prayer or just a voluntary prayer. So this, he says the zahir is that it was a what? Because someone may come and say you cannot pray behind an imam, he's sitting down in his fard. Taraweeh, this salah, that salah, but not the fard prayer. Everybody understand this? No, he says zahiruhu, is that it's what? Fard. Is what? That is fard. Moving forward. He says this hadith, or these hadiths, they also teach us the permissibility of making a signal in the salah. Of making a what? A signal. That's going to come later on when the Prophet ﷺ, he says, Ashara ilayhim. He pointed to them to do what? Anijlisu. To do what? He pointed, he waved his hand to do what? To sit down. So this shows us that it's permissible to do something in the salah of movement with conditions. And we've explained this before, and we'll explain it again. And this is extremely beneficial, extremely important, and very practical for the 9-to-5 Muslim, especially in the age of technological terror, in which is a cell phone. You go off in a salat, the phone starts ringing, a crazy ringtone. Everybody understand this? Loud. The person is so ignorant or has been taught that you cannot move in the salah. And the salah is absolute mummification. The music is blasting in the salah, the people's salah, and you can't move to what? Send it to voicemail or cut it off. Because it's haram to what? Move in the salah. And that's a bad scale and poor dates, as the Arabs say. 2 black eyes. Your scale is off, and the actual product is what? It's da'if. Everybody understand this? And our common cultural cliches. Your scale is off, and the product is what? It's watery. It's cut. Everybody understand this? This is what they say. You have a bad scale, and the dates are what? Low grade. So you can't move in the salah, which is wrong. Then you have the music blasting in the salah. So now you disturb everybody because it's haram to what? Move in the salah. And then there's some brothers who move so much in their salah. Scratch, itch, or their scarf, the gutra. They have to prettify, make it every single salah. It got to be perfect. This is a reality. Or the beards. Or make sure your clothes are right. Every single rak'ah. Hair, the dude got to be what? Just right in the salah. My robe, my cloak. And they keep moving. And it's as if they're praying for a fashion show. And that's a what? That's a problem. Where some people, they play with their phones in the salah. Fiddling with their phones. You know what I mean? It's real. So is it permissible to move in the salah? Can you make a movement in the salah? I know he says 2 things you can do in the salah here. This hadith teaches us. And once again, this is organic fiqh here. Is what? Organic fiqh. Directly taken from the hadith. He says, Jawaz al-ishara. The permissibility to point in the salah. Fard and nafil. Such as someone entering and giving you the salams. Assalamu alaikum. You say what? I understand this? Only with the ishara. Tayyib. Or let's say it's an emergency. Or something very important. And it says, where's my phone? Mathalan. You say what? If it was a need, somebody has to go. You're praying, someone's down the steps, the delivery man at the door. Mathalan. Something very important. Hypothetically speaking, it's very what? Very important. Oh, my keys. My keys. I got to move my car. My car's going to get towed right now. Where are my keys? See my keys. He's talking and you're what? You're praying. It's permissible to do what? وهكذا. Everybody clear on this or not? Or take a movement in the salah. He says, wal-amal al-qalil. A small, brief action. And there are other hadiths that are specific on this, such as opening up a what? A door. Or moving to protect your sutra. Or stopping somebody, thumping them in the chest. Clotheslining them from what? Trying to walk between you and your sutra. We explained that in detail in our lessons on the what? The sutra. So it's permissible to move in the salah if there is a need. It doesn't have to be a dire need, but a need. So let's say, for example, it's permissible to scratch yourself in a salah because this is really itching and I cannot focus and concentrate unless I do what? But then I can't keep doing this. But methane, you got a real bad, let's say your hand is really, really itching, methane, you scratched it once. It's one thing. Or you took a step to stand where the heat is. It's cold where you are, you can't focus. Everybody understand this? Or shade, or anything that is from the ways of perfecting your khushu'. That's recommended to do that. And if it's a way to something that's pertaining to your salah being obligatory or nullified, then you must move. Such as removing something which is impure. Let's say you realize that when you went to the bathroom, some urine splashed on your khuffain. You realize that, you remembered it. You have to do what in the salah now? Unzip it and take off the khuf. It's wajib to move in the what? And obligatory. You cannot stand still. Everybody understand this? Everybody, so the salah and moving the salah is different levels. Sometimes it's obligatory, facing the qibla. You're facing the wrong direction. Someone says, it's to the right. You now have to do what? You have to move. There's not an option. Harming the believers, distracting the believers, vilifying Allah's masjid with your phone. You may have to what? Move it and cut off your phone. Everybody understand this? So sometimes moving the salah is mandatory. Sometimes moving the salah is recommended. Sometimes moving in the salah is haram. Sometimes it's disliked and sometimes it's just mubah. So the ulama of Islam, they say if the movement in the salah is based off of a need and it's yasir, it's slight, it's not a major movement, and the af'al are not mutataliya, mutakarrira, mutawaliya, consistent, back to back, you keep doing the same thing, then it's okay. Such as taking a step. Let's say you had to take 3 steps. You would take the steps and pauses. Take 1 step, take another step, and then take a what? A 3rd step. Taking all 3 steps all at once. Everybody clear on this or not? So it is permissible to do what? Move in the salah. It's permissible to do what? Make a signal what? In the salah. Based off of the madhab of this imam. Sahih. Naam? Doesn't mean that it's not what this imam and this madhab says too. But we've taken our stuff what? Right from the garden. Everybody understand this? We grew it. We picked it. We cut it. We washed it. So on and so forth. Everybody understand this or not? He also says in these hadiths is to follow the imam in his actions and in the takbir. Khair. Moving forward, he says, وفيه وجوب متابعة المأموم لإمامه في التكبير والقيام والقعود والركوع والسجود وأنه يفعلها بعد المأموم كذا. It says here in these hadiths is the obligation of following what? The imam. And everything. The takbir, standing, sitting, bowing, etc. Naam. He says, and that is to do it after the imam. فَيُكَبِّرُ تَكْبِيرَةِ الْإِحْرَامِ بَعْدَ فَرَاغِ الْإِمَامِ مِنْهَا. When the imam says Allahu Akbar, the initial takbir, he says you must say it after the imam is finished. A very common mistake that many people they make. They make the takbir to the ihram what? Simultaneously. Before, that's way extreme now. Well, people do it, but it's not as common as people doing it what? The imam is saying Allahu Akbar and they're saying what? Do you suppose? No, he says to wait until the imam does what? Stops. So the imam says Allahu Akbar. And not at the same time. Everybody clear on this? We have to warn the people that do this. And know what he says. فَإِنْ شَرَعَ فِيهَا قَبْلَ فَرَاغِ الْإِمَامِ مِنْهَا لَمْ تَنْعَقِدْ صَلَاتُهُ. If he does it, if he makes the takbir to the ihram, if he begins it before the imam finishes it, his prayer did not start. His prayer didn't what? Didn't start. There's no prayer. It's not a prayer is invalid. The prayer didn't what? Everybody understand this? Your career never even took off what? Off ground. Not as over, it's finished. It never started. You understand the danger? He then says, وَيَرْكَعُ بَعْدَ شُرُوعِ الْإِمَامِ فِي الرُّكُوعِ وَقَبْلِ رَفْعِهِ مِنْهُ فَإِنْ قَرَنَهُ أَوْ سَبَقَهُ فَقَدْ أَسَاءَ وَلَكِنْ لَا تَبْطُلُ صَلَاتُهُ. As far as the ruku', then make the ruku' after the imam begins. He says here, وَقَبْلَ رَفْعِهِ مِنْهُ كَذَلِكَ, like coming out of it as well. If you do it simultaneously, or you come before the imam in ruku', he says, then you have done something which is bad. But the prayer is not necessarily invalidated. But you did something that's what? That's wrong. وَكَذَا السُّجُودُ, and the same applies to the prostration. وَيُسَلِّمُ بَعْدَ فَرَاغِ الْإِمَامِ مِنَ السَّلَامِ. And to make the taslim after the imam does what? This is after, he says, after the imam makes taslim. فَإِنْ سَلَّمَ قَبْلَهُ بَطُلَتْ صَلَاتُهُ. If he does it before the imam is finished, then his prayer is what? Null and void. إِلَّا أَنْ يَنْوِيَ الْمُفَارَقَةِ فَفِيهِ خِلَافٌ مَشْهُورٌ. Except for the fact that the one who's behind the imam, who intends to finish behind the imam, he has an extra rak'ah or something. He's intending now, I'm out of the salat with the imam now. Such as the imam's making, you have a rak'ah that's left. You came late. The imam begins making the taslim. He's now leaving a prayer. You're no longer to follow him with both taslims. Because you're now, what? Emancipated from the imam. You're not following him anymore. Everybody understand or not? You're not free. You're not what? But you're free now. You're not behind the imam anymore. He says, فِي خِلَافٌ مَشْهُورٌ. Long detailed discussion regarding that. وَإِنْ سَلَّمَ مَعَهُ لَا قَبْلَهُ وَلَا بَعْدُهُ فَقَدْ أَسَاءَ وَلَا تَبْطُلُ صَلَاتُهُ عَلَى الصَّحِيحِ وَقِيلَ تَبْطُلُ. He says if he makes the taslim with the imam, not before him, nor after him, then he's once more done something which is bad, and the prayer is not invalidated according to the strongest view. And some say that it is what? It is null and void. Moving forward, with regards to the fiqh of this hadith, and a very controversial issue, an important issue, he says, وَأَمَّا قَوْلُهُ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ وَإِذَا صَلَّى قَاعِدًا فَصَلُّوا قُعُودًا فاختلف العلماء فيه فقال طائفة بظاهره وممن قال به أحمد بن حنبل والأوزاعي رحمهم الله تعالى وقال مالك رحمه الله تعالى في رواية لا يجوز صلاة القادر على القيام خلف القاعد لا قائما ولا قاعدا. He says, as far as when the Prophet ﷺ says, And when the imam prays sitting down, then you pray sitting down. As far as this part of the hadith, he says, then the scholars of Islam, they differ on this issue. Some take this part of the hadith directly, organically, the zahir. When the imam sits down, you what? You sit down. Some of the ulama of Islam, they hold that this is what should be done. From those ulama was Imam Ahmad. Naam. And also the Imam al-Sham, Imam al-Awza'i, rahimahullah. And others, that no, he doesn't mention, they took the view that behind it, you do what? Sit down like the Imam, based off of the organic hadith. Clear and plain. Everybody understand this? When the Imam prays sitting, then what? Imam Malik, rahimahullah, he said once, it is unlawful for one who has the ability to stand to pray behind the one who's sitting down. He says you can't pray behind him standing or sitting. Imam Malik, he said once you cannot pray behind someone who's sitting down, regardless whether you're what? Standing or sitting. There's a difference in the issue now. Pay attention, ikhwan. And this goes to show studying hadith, studying fiqh, comparative fiqh, the blended mixed martial arts, quote unquote. It requires a great deal of intelligence and a great deal of mental what? Presence. You gotta be on point. Everybody understand this? Not like how some people say, oh, you study Islamic studies? Oh, okay, yeah, right. I'm a doctor. I'm an engineer. This is how it is in most Middle Eastern countries. The people that study Islamic studies, now I've discussed this with many people from the Middle East. The people that study Islamic studies are one or two people, they say. In the colleges we're talking about, not traditional masters, in the colleges in which they offer other than Islamic studies. Either your grades weren't good enough to become a civil engineer or a lawyer or this or that, or you weren't smart enough to study physics and chemistry from the get-go. So I need a degree, I want a degree, so let me just, Islamic studies. Let me just be an imam. This is the approach and attitude of not all, but many people in the lands of the Muslims. That's how they look at Islamic studies as what? Doesn't need it's not of no importance. Even in America, you go to the masjid, the president of the board, the administration, he's not studied Islamically. He's an engineer by trade or this or that. The khutbah, the classes, the answers, it's simple, easy, simple, no problem. Needs no intelligence, no knowledge, no fiqh, no nothing. Islam, the sciences of the kitab and sunnah, the words of Allah and His Messenger is what? Any simple-minded person can grasp them. But the science of the dunya and of this and that, not just important, but it requires a what? Brain power. Everybody understand this? And then he goes on to the families. Only Allah knows how many people have complained to us young brothers. My parents say I have to be a doctor, I have to be an engineer, I have to do this, I can't study Islam. What do you want to do being imam? What do you want to do studying the hadiths? Anybody can do that. You can do that on the weekend. You can do that after you finish 10 years of college. That's not important. That's of nothing. And then if you sat them down, and this is a summarized lesson in English, they will become what, Osama? Lost. Everybody understand this? They become what? Lost. So it's easy to underestimate something if you don't have respect for it from the get-go. Unfortunately. So therefore, Imam Malik, he said what? Is that it's unlawful and invalid to pray behind one who's sitting down. Absolutely. We're going to get into a third opinion, which some of the ulama say you stand up behind the imam sitting down. Mathalan. Or the scenarios, if the imam becomes sick, is he a regular imam? Imam Malik said what? Period. Don't pray behind him what? At all. Whether you're standing or whether you're sitting. Everybody understand the difference? Whether you're standing or sitting, he says it's unlawful for you to what? That's sitting down. Everybody clear on this? He then says, وقال أبو حنيفة والشافعي وجمهور السلف رحمهم الله تعالى لا يجوز للقادر على القيام أن يصلي خلف القائد إلا قائما. Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Shafi'i, and no, a very interesting fact, he says here Jumhur al-Salaf. He says most of the Salaf. That's the issue of scrutiny. Is that actually valid? He says that most of the Salaf, they say that you cannot pray behind one who's sitting down unless you yourself are what? Standing up. Not sitting. The sitting was the first view. Imam Ahmed. Once again, we're what, Khalid? I'll tell you. Imam Ahmed, Imam Awza'i, what did they say? The first view was what? You gotta sit down. Clear. Imam Malik, he said what? Don't pray behind him at all. Khalas. The third view, which Nawawi is quoting from most of the people's knowledge, is what? If you have the ability to stand, you what? Stand. And you cannot sit down unless you yourself are sick. Everybody understand this? So they're saying it's valid to pray behind that imam, but you have to stand up and not sit down. Everybody clear on this or not? Everybody clear on this or not? Then from these three views come the other tafasil, the other details regarding, is he a regular imam or is it just once in a blue moon? Clear on this or not? A blue moon, you got this, Riyadh? You know what a blue moon is? He say once what? And a blue moon. That's not the same as this person being the normal imam, the 5 salah imam, the good imam, brother imam, they say. They say, huh? Everybody understand this? He's the normal what? Imam. You know that he's going to what? Sit down. It's known that he's crippled. He comes in a wheelchair. And he's the normal what? Or just, oh, the sheikh has visited us, let him lead the salah out of honor and respect. Difference. Or another scenario is, if he's normally healthy, but all of a sudden he what? His knee goes out in the ruku', his back. And then he has to finish the salah what? So it's a difference. Once more, the foundation, the asl. And then from that you do what? Branch out. That's how you study fiqh. You branch off the asl. Everybody understand this? You branch off of the what? Off of the asl. Everybody clear on this or not? Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, وَاحْتَجُوا بِأَنَّ النَّبِيَّ صلى الله عليه وسلم في مرض وفاته بعد هذا قائدا واحتج بالنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في مرضه وفاته هكذا وأبو بكر رضي الله عنه والناس خلفه قياما إن كان بعض العلماء زعم أن أبو بكر رضي الله عنه كان هو الإمام والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم متقديه أو مقتديه لكن الصواب أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان هو الإمام وقد ذكره مسلم بعد هذا الباب صريحا أو كالصريح فقال في روايته عن أبي بكر بن أبي شيبة بإسناده عن عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها أنها قالت فجاء رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى جلس عن يسار أبي بكر وكان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يصلي بالناس جالسا وأبو بكر قائما يقتضي أبو بكر بصلاة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ويقتضي الناس بصلاة أبي بكر. He says here, and these ulama, the proof that they use is that the Prophet ﷺ, when he was sick and he was ill, he did what? He led the salah. And when he was in his final sickness, alayhi salatu. And some say that Abu Bakr was the actual imam. There's a discrepancy. But no, he says the correct view from the narrations is that Muhammad was the what? He was the imam. Everybody clear on this or not? Some say Abu Bakr was leading and Muhammad was following. And some say Muhammad was following and Abu Bakr was what? Leading. He said the correct view is that Abu Bakr was following and Muhammad was leading. Everybody clear on this or not? طيب. Moving forward. He says, rahimahullah ta'ala, وأما قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنما جعل الإمام ليؤتم به فمعناه عند الشافعي وطائفة في الأفعال الظاهرة وإلا فيجوز أن يصلي الفرض خلف النفل وعكسه والظهر خلف العصر وعكسه. He says when the Prophet ﷺ says that the Imam has only been made to be followed, this part of the hadith is considered to be paramount. It's paramount part of the hadith. And this is once more a major cornerstone of the fiqh of the salah. The imam is only made. The only reason why the imam is for what? Status? For his status to be clear to the people, right? La, his status. His knowledge, his lineage, how handsome he is, how strong he is, how well dressed he is. That's the reason why the imam is there. He says the imam has what? Only been placed. Listen carefully. Innama. The imam has what? Only been placed for one reason and one reason, that is for him to be what? Follow. This is a cornerstone of the fiqh of the salah with regards to jama'ah, the congregation. The whole purpose of the imam is for him to be what? Follow. That's it. So if that's not the purpose of you praying behind this person, then something's wrong. Everybody clear on this or not? Fahimna ikhwan? We'll stop here, whereas we took a lot. Allah Azza wa Jal surely knows best. Hopefully tomorrow or next week, whenever Allah Azza wa Jal allows us, we'll finish this discussion. Jazakumullahu khairan.